Welcome to the Atlanteans, a podcast about Warmachine and the Iron Kingdoms, created by the Hampton Roads Atlantean gaming community. And now to our hosts. Hey guys, this is Jay. Welcome to episode 14 of the Atlanteans. With me today is Joe and Alec. How are you guys doing?
Hello.
Good, dude. I'm painting a... Oh my gosh, what am I painting? It's a dire troll.
A dire troll.
Yeah, so
one
more
of
fun
the
with that.
one of the heavies.
Yep, one of the heavies. I'm doing barnacles tonight, so that's while you're talking, imagine me painting a million little yellow barnacles.
Yeah, I'm getting close to 50 points at Orgoth painted. So,
oh, congratulations!
That's what I've been painting. I'm not painting right now, but that's what I've been painting this week. All right.
So what is your color system for barnacles, real quick?
Oh well, it's being developed. They're yellow, because thematically, all my frogs have yellow spots. So my idea is that like the frogs are actually in charge of the trolls, and they control the trolls through like algae and that kind of stuff. So that all of these barnacles are yellow. I'm doing them with a couple of contrast paints, and I'm just highlighting, and then I'm highlighting the edges with a little bit of ice white, ice yellow. Yeah.
And if any of you guys were listening, if you hit down into our show notes and go to our Instagram, which you can find through our link tree, there's pictures of some of Joe's more recent stuff up on our Instagram, so you'll be able to see what he's talking about with the yellow, because he does have a regular light troll blood that we've put up there recently.
Yeah, it's my first troll.
Yep. All right. So joining us tonight, we have Paul. Paul, welcome to the cast. Paul's from Tried and True, and he's the genius behind all of the regional and cool terrain that we've been seeing at Nova Open the last 2 years.
Hello. Hey, thanks, Jay, for having me on. And I had to just say something. I have to say something real fast to Joe.
Yeah.
Because it's your painting brine bloods. I know the pain of painting brine bloods because I did Andy's stuff for a while ago. Barnacles are the worst. They're everywhere.
Oh my god!
I had to go paint 20 Marauders for the event.
Dude, I can't even imagine. There's so much detail on all of these models, right?
They're great, but because every single model is different. It just takes so much longer. Yeah. I swear, painting brine bloods have taken a year off my life.
Yeah,
I'm feeling it. Every model could be a centerpiece in this army. They just have that much detail.
Joe, that's all Mark IV armies, unfortunately. But you're also painting them to the 9s. So
I'm enjoying myself. There's no doubt. I'm doing a good job. All right, we should talk about Paul though, right?
Yeah. Well, and Alec actually experienced painting them as well. He painted the Colossal for one of our locals. It also plays Brine Bloods. So
yeah, so I asked Paul, did you paint the Abyssal King between all of the spikes?
I'm the only one that has it so far.
No. The things that I ended up doing for his stuff was I ended up doing the Marauders. I think all the first round of Warlocks, and a couple of the unit that. Here and there. I did a couple of the lights and the heavies. I had a lot of fun working with them for that because the lights have a very much like a turtle look to them. I ended up doing different species of turtles, which was a lot of fun. So we had a hawkbill and
there it is.
Hawkbill and where's the other? I think just a green turtle, and then we used
green turtle. What else? God,
it was supposed to be a leatherback and some other one. Yeah. But it was fun, and then I ended up doing crafts for his heavies. It was just fun. It was very different.
Too. Yeah. Have you seen the any of the covers of our recent episodes?
I think I've seen maybe.
Have you seen the glowing fire toad?
Oh wait, who is that? Was that one of you guys?
That's Joe.
Yeah, that's me. That's my.
Oh my gosh!
My
no, I saw there's Toad. That was It was incredible looking. Okay,
yeah,
wow.
Those are Joe's Roggers, and his army is all painted like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna go for it. I was gonna do a frog, and then I was like, maybe I could do it. And these guys kind of pushed me, and I ended up making it work. I was really happy.
If we can get you out to Adepticon out to a Nova this year, I think you're gonna win Best in Show. for your frogs.
Eh,
I think so.
we'll
Man.
see. I have to finish painting them, but
Oh, yeah.
dude, I'm on crabs too for my heavies. I think crabs. I'm trying to paint a like a blue soft shell crab kind of a scheme. I don't know if it's really working, but it looks kind of fun. So
Did like
I
a
think
red.
the yeah.
Okay.
No, you go. Yeah.
I was saying, like, yeah, we did like a red, Maryland blue, and I can't remember what the last one was. It was, like really like, stuff.
Oh man, that's great. I might have to steal that.
By all means, go for it. Like, it's just the design that Brian once had. I just really happy with, but just the amount of painting that went into them, which is, you know, just exhausting. It is because of
Yeah,
how
it's
much
a
there is.
it's a joy and it's an absolute curse.
Yo, what did we challenge you to do the other day on the cast? We're like, oh, come on, Joe, you can do it.
Well, gems. You guys pushed me to do gems. You pushed me to do the Vroggers. Eyes maybe? No, probably not eyes.
No, I'm trying to remember what it was. I'm gonna have to go and like re-listen to the cast.
It's
I remember we told you.
the glowing eyes in the armor parts. On
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
It turned out okay.
They did.
It wasn't bad. There are better implementations of it, but I was glad I tried.
I was disappointed you didn't get first cut on the
I wasn't. Did you see those models?
Squigmar-
the Squidmar Open? They
the
were
Squidmar
insane,
Open?
man.
Mine
No
shouldn't
way.
have made first cut. Yours should have made first cut. I don't know if it should have been ranked or notified or whatever, but there was like an other category, and that was that would have been first cut. I think you should have made first cut.
Dude, I looked. I mean, it's kind of you to say that, but I looked at those models and they're insane. It's just like I love the idea of a painting competition, but there's no way I'm doing like a global one. Like people are wild, man.
Joe, the temple I'm going to be giving you here in like 2 weeks that you have to
man.
pour like UV lava. You have to do like the UV resin pour, and you're going to have to do all that stuff and, you know, make it your display board.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into the discussion about what we actually had Paul come on to join us today. So Paul, you're sort of the train guy for the Tried and True and the Warmachine crew that's sort of leading the charge for prepping boards for Nova and upping the quality of terrain in your general club. Why don't you tell us about terrain and why you find it so fascinating?
When it comes to the actual like terrain itself, I've been drawn to terrain. Back when I was like getting out of college, I ended up doing like D&D like terrain by like using like those old like hot glue gun and cardboard guys like the and Sky. So I've always had like a desire of like creating things, and I've always enjoyed that. And then even when you go and take a look at all these awesome miniature war games, it really helps sell the location itself. So when I got into Warmachine back in like 2017, really it was just like more so like the models are what drew me into the game. And I didn't really know much about like the world or like the setting. So as I started to look at more at the art, I'm like, oh, this is like really, really cool. But then playing most of the games, everything was like the neoprene stuff. So I just figured that it was what it was. And I'm like, okay, I guess this is not how we play. And then it was Nova 22 when I saw like our tables versus everybody else's tables, like the Lord of the Rings ones. I'm like, oh my god, like it's embarrassing. And
yeah, I have some experience in that feeling too. So I've been playing miniature games forever. I mean, I started 30 plus years ago. And in 2010, 2012, 15, I really got into historicals up in the community I played with up in Northern Virginia. And those historical guys go hard on terrain. Even just for like your regular World War II battle, you've got like roads and hedgerows and buildings and fences and animals and they just go hard. And I got used to playing on those kind of level tables. And so I started applying that stuff to my games of Warmachine. And so when I came down to where I am now, the first thing I did when we started up our Warmachine community was build 3D terrain for my community.
No, that's great. And I will echo the appreciation for the historical stuff, because I think when it comes down to accuracy and being into those worlds. Like I love seeing, is it Flames of War? I think it is, like when they have like all the tanks and like the infantry. I just love seeing those tables at Crit Hit Games whenever I would go down and play the Warmachine games, and not even like just just looking and just taking it in. Because I mean, really, when you look at us playing our games, some people like are going to play the hyper competitive and like I'm trying to do the best, but like for me, like mini wargaming is like more so an escape. It's like playing your D&D game at like that large scale, and to be able to play in a city or to play in a desert or like a forest, it just kind of brings you there a little bit more, so it really can take you away from like the mundane of day to day and really have you enjoy the experience that much more.
Yeah. So one of the things that we had sort of talked about as we were bridging the idea of this cast was the idea of 2D to 2.5 to 3D terrain. Do we want to explain to our listener, what the differences of those things are? That's something I'm stealing from an old podcast I used to do. To our listener. Do you want?
Say hi, Mom.
I play it to my wife when she's sleeping, so she definitely hears it, right? So.
Oh, you're lucky. My wife is like, "Don't make me listen to the podcast." I'm just playing. No, she's great. But no, I think a lot of the people who are listening are probably aware. Right. But your difference being, it's literally just it's space, right? 2D is 2-dimensional, 3D is 3-dimensional, 2.5D is an in between where you put 3D elements on top of 2D templates. Right.
So what's the advantage of each different size, of each different style of terrain?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think it goes without saying that 2D terrain by far gives you the cleanest game. So everything is flat and neoprene, maybe some MDF bases, or acrylics, but overall you have flat stuff. So in a game of Warmachine, you want things to be as precise as possible.
I've seen 2D games as simplified when I first moved here, in some of the stores that were playing. When I first moved to Norfolk, they were playing with cutout foam pieces in different colors, and the different colors were this one's hills, this one's trees, this one's buildings, etc.
I got one better for you. When we first got started or doing for stuff, we had felt, so we just like cut out felt. But even when we went down to another store, there was no terrain, so they just grabbed Magic the Gathering lands. It's like, okay, the forest is a forest, and the islands are.
I've never seen that. I've never seen that.
Yeah. Okay. Can I give my one up? So.
Yeah.
So we played a little bit when I was in Afghanistan, my boss and I, because he was like really into this. And so what we did was we printed out like pictures of forests and we laminated them, and that was our 2D terrain.
I think that's better. Than a Magic the Gathering card being.
Okay.
This is a forest.
Sure,
this is yeah. But
I don't know. I think the Magic the Gathering one's kind of a little bit better because you can move the cards around and change the shape of the.
Yeah. That's true.
That's clever.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But
so one good thing about this stuff is it's really accessible, right? So that's really easy to get people into it. So I think that's like the one selling point for it.
You can store a whole table's worth of terrain in a bag or in an envelope really easily.
Well, it's like, I think that's what the people say is like, and for event organizers, it just makes it a lot easier as opposed to trying to shepherd like boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff that you only involved in.
Yeah, definitely one of the advantages of us being able to have 3D terrain for our community is that our local store stores some of it for us, and stores our mats for us, or else it would be very difficult because we'd have to rely on everybody having to bring in their own terrain, or one person being there first every time we had a game and bringing the train in and storing it themselves. So yeah, it's definitely helpful that my game store stores our 3D and allows us to have that kind of access.
Wait, what's wrong with someone bringing in just giant boxes of terrain?
I mean, there's no problem with that as long as that person is there early and first, so that it's accessible and people can play without that person being there.
Well, just one of the things though I noticed with like 3D elements is that we were fortunate enough to have our local store like host a lot of 3D stuff, but it got to the point that it just took up so much space that they would need for their other events. So it's just a consideration to have with like those 3D elements if you're like storing it at a place.
Yeah, if the store that we play at we have a size. They give us a shelf, and we can put stuff on that shelf. And if it goes over that shelf, it's too much, and we can't store it there. And then they have but they also have some of their own not great condition stuff that they have on a couple of shelves that are outside of the room that we store stuff in.
Oh, the stuff that is abused by the 40Kers?
Yes.
Are we allowed to say that?
Yes.
I mean, it's a real problem. Like it's tough to keep 3D terrain nice. You got to take care of it.
Absolutely, agreed. I'm have a bunch sitting in front of me that I'm touching up of our terrain that just over the couple years that we've been playing, it's gotten nicked up and damaged enough that I've had to take a bunch of it home and fix it. So
yeah, that's actually something that I did for the Nova Open when I was there 2 years ago. I actually had like a box to go and patch up everything because just as it gets used like throughout like the day, and it's the flocking for IOS and the paint for this specific dirt at this random map. It's just it was a lot.
Okay, are you the guy between all the like little cats and dogs and stuff that were littered all over the map as scatter terrain?
That's not me. The little animals is Erica, and the farm animals are great, and we're going to keep using them. So
they're hilarious, man. I laughed so hard.
The best thing that came out of last year was the little sticky dots, so that you could replace all the scatter stuff. That was
we aren't going to go. Yeah, we won't take credit for that because I think that was Seth at Poker Brawl. He did with tape.
Okay. I think that Dan introduced it to me, showed it off to me, and gave me a bunch of stickers at the show last year. But that's an amazing idea, and definitely something for tournaments I will do in the future and events.
Yeah, the little sticky thing was great, and then what's nice is that if you ever have to go and move anything around, you just pick up the sticker and move to where it needs to go.
Absolutely.
But going back to the original, I guess, discussion, because we were talking about your 2D, and I think we've kind of already talked about 3D. We didn't really talk about what the 2.5 aspect of it is. So we see the best of both worlds, right? Or the best of 2D has to offer and 3D has to offer. 2.5 is that happy medium where you have your templates, everything is basically flat, and you put your 3D elements on top of it. So trees on top of your forests, buildings on top of the things. But I actually have I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are, because I have honestly a gripe against 2.5D, but I want to see if you mention it.
So my issue with 2.5D is that you set the table up and it looks cool, and then as soon as you interact with it, the elements are off to the side, and then they stay off to the side for the rest of the game. And so the 2.5D becomes a 2D table very quickly.
That's it. Where I was going to say it's just oh, this is a great table. Now get this stuff all out of here, and just wipe it off. And
it's
and I mean where I'm at with it, it's I understand the cleanliness of the game. I do it too. I had a match where I had a rubble pile. I moved the rubble topper off, and it was not even 2 turns later. I'm oh, I could put the rubble pile back, and I did, but I just don't think about it in the moment because it's the game. But
especially if you're playing in competitive play and you're on clock and you're thinking about and you're watching you're interacting with your opponent, it definitely, the piece comes off and then it tends to stay off for the rest of the game.
Yeah. What I find kind of helps a little bit is your bigger pieces, your buildings.
Right.
You can actually probably tuck them into a corner of the board where there's going to be less action happening, and most of the time it usually stays on the board. But I mean, if you do that, all your boards are going to go look the same, so you have to go put the big, tall things in.
For me, we do use a mix of 2D and 3D and a little bit of 2D, 2.5, and 3D. For our general collection that we use, all of the houses and buildings are 3D, the walls are 3D, the trenches are 3D, some of the big rocks and intervening things are 3D. All of the forests and stuff are 2.5, and then everything else, the burning earths, we just got toppers that Alec printed for us for the dust devils. So those are 2.5 now, but most of our terrain, and there is elements that could be used to show rubble as rubble, but we have rubble terrain, neoprene rubble terrain, and you could put stuff on it, but most people just use it as 2D. So like,
I mean, I put it out. I put out the rubble buildings. I put out the stuff like that. I prefer that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm a hard proponent of 2.5, and I'm like I've even been like, hey, don't forget to put that back, and they're like, fine, yes, here we go.
Yeah, that's like where I'm at with using those things. Is like the 3D will always basically be like the houses and like your it's like your toppers, right? It makes sense for them to be on like the templates, like your rubble and your forests and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What about like water features? I feel like those are generally pretty flat. Can they be fully 3D?
So
like, do you need to engineer them right? Like how do you do this?
Yeah, basically, in my experience, basically what to do to make them look good is you effectively make them like a crater. So they're like a thin and depth, and then you either add water effect or you're doing a flat terrain and then like basically painting it like water and glossing it.
Yeah, I'm like kind of like with you on that, doing the same thing. My only thing that I've considered about this, and this also goes with like trenches and like open graves, those are like maybe some of the only pieces that I'm okay with doing neoprene for, or just having it being like flat, because it's actually an impression in the earth, and there's not a really good way to model that. So I'm just fine with the 2D one doing that.
If you're
I see what you're saying.
I did it for our lakes and stuff, or our rivers. You just have to make sure you paint it with the layering and the consistency, and then pour the resin on top, and it looks good. But
but he's saying you can't like if it was to be really realistic, you would dig into the table, right? You would excavate, and like you can't do that. And so maybe 2D is actually okay for those. Okay, so like, respect that.
Hold on, you could though, and this is what I want to pitch.
Not
for now, but for 2 years from now. There was a great table when I was in Europe that had running water on it. Okay,
and
then they did plaster, and they had water running across. I know you guys have seen it in the
your fog table working. Once your fog table is working, we can talk about running water.
Dude, I actually got it working again. I did. So let's
show it to me.
I could just see you going to a convention. No, I was at you guys
I didn't
do a convention and like it just like getting all on the floor and like you just being asked never to come back. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, actually, so for the fog machine, I had to basically build a different one because the one that the movers broke is never going to work. I basically went on Amazon and I just bought the what it called hypersonic. No,
it doesn't matter.
But yeah,
it doesn't.
No, I'm telling you, I still think the water table, like going to a game store and seeing running water going across from one side of the table to the other, was amazing.
No.
So I mean, let's unpack that for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So because he's kind of he's bringing up a point is like spectacle, and that's kind of the thing that's good for your 3D elements and stuff. Because I mean, if you talk about spectacle, right? If anybody's like been to like Nova and wherever this place is, like the Lord of the Rings tables, like that's spectacle, like the amount of stuff that you see right there, you know, like these literal.
I walked through several times this year just to see all that stuff. You're right, it's really cool.
Yeah, so I think that they're like, as much as I hate the idea of running water, I think that there is a place for that, and I have to go give a shout out to Tyson for LVO and like the tables that he's created, like that Cephalix one and the convergence table, like that has the gears that moves.
Yeah.
For me, I think the most that I would want to see for spectacle is fog, which you could very easily do with like the locomotive smoke or electric fog machine kind of stuff, like sonic stuff, lights and movement with like gears and things moving around. That's the most I think I'd want to do for spectacle.
Oh man, Alec, you know you got to propose now.
Well, I'm going to be building the trench. Now, here's the thing. If we
the fire
we don't.
No.
God, no. Hold on. No. I'm pretty sure I would never be invited back to Nova. If I had fire at a table, they'd be like, "Thank you, sir. Please leave. You're never allowed to build again."
I can see like little puffs of fog to simulate where clouds are, but no, not fire.
It'd be epic, though.
All right.
To a point.
So we sort of talked about 2D and 3D. We've talked about the craziness and extremes you can do for spectacle. So one of the things you're known for, Paul, is creating really cool thematic tables and regional tables. So like one of the tables I know that Joe's been most impressed by and loved was the Scorn table that was at Nova last year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Scorn player. I was playing my Scorn. It was the final of King of Coins. Like, it couldn't have been better than that. On the Scorn table, it felt like the home field advantage. It was really cool. I loved how you did forests for that, right?
Yeah,
you can't actually. Yeah, tell us. Yeah.
No, it's okay. So, I mean, it gives me I'm getting a little goosebumps right now. It makes me happy to hear just people excited about this stuff. Because again, like, I don't know where else these like regional tables are seen, because a lot of pictures that I see at conventions, like, and no offense, like, I like to the people that run it or design it, it's just a lot of things just kind of seem generic. Where it's like, it's just kind of like here is a battlefield, we'll have a wall here, a fantasy looking house, and the Iron Kingdoms is just like there's some iconic places in there.
For me, for supplying terrain for my players to play on, I definitely want the table to feel like a Warmachine table.
Yeah.
I have not gotten to the point where I'm trying to make it into like a specific place or a specific region. And that's sort of where you've gone farther and more interesting. But I definitely focus on gears, focus on the feeling that it's a Warmachine table and not just a fantasy or a steampunk table.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like you can't just say steampunk because that's not really what it is. And they say like Full Metal Fantasy. It's like, well, what is that? But going back to what you're saying, yeah, I honestly, it's like kind of like a personal thing. I'm like, we have to compare. Like, I compare our tables to like Lord of the Rings stuff. I'm like, we gotta keep up with the Joneses, right? So it was very much like.
So they're like A tier, right? So I feel you there, but like when you go and look at the 40K terrain, I think you're crushing the 40K players.
I mean,
where every table is just like a generic pile of runes. Like, you're doing way better than that.
I appreciate it, but let's go back to the thing, right? So like the regions are very unique. So back in like 23 when we ran Nova, our narrative was like it was a realm fight, and there's kind of like two parts to this. The one was that we needed to flesh out like tables for narrative, so we ended up doing the 3 regions. And there's a difference I use in terminology for like regions and tables. I'll see if I'll talk about that in a second.
I mean, I played in that one. I was there and I played.
Yeah. That's actually where you and I met. Yeah, played in iOS. Yeah. So like for one thing, it's like we had spectacle, right? We had to go make ourselves look good. But then also it was to kind of say like, well, we have catch up to go and do, right? Because the houses were they were like insulation foam with like a slab of paint on. And all the neoprene or like flat MDF materials, but
definitely the iOS buildings from that convention are the thing I remember the most of the.
Well, I can't take credit for that because that was all Workbench Maniac out of Germany. Like that guy is a wizard with what he ends up doing, and he's been helping me out a lot. He did all the Scorn terrain, so I can't even take credit for that. Like he made all those. I'm like, I will test these out and see if they print well. And it was just it was a lot of fun projects to go and work on all those places. And just again, like the size and the silhouette of those tables. Just when you see the gigantic iOS buildings, it really like brings you into that realm now.
Yeah, I played on that table on 2 of those tables at Nova, and I remember them like, I mean, they make such an impression, and the scale is really good. Like it feels like this big city, this like, well, not city really, but like this big. City might be the right word.
These big buildings, these big things, like you don't see that, and what it does is like when you're at the convention, you see this big freaking tower and you're like, what is that? I got to go take a look at what this is. And what it does is like it's a beacon and it brings people over to go take a look, and then it's like, oh, look at all these different things. Because I remember hearing like through the grapevine that someone said like, are these Warmachine tables? Nah, they're not Warmachine tables. And so I said, no, they're actually Warmachine tables. Like, what? So it's just,
I believe that.
It just kind of brings people in and gets them excited. Be like, oh, this is the kind of stuff that you can go and play on. And just from there, I've just been working on all those different regions and tables. So like my region projects are like 2 to 3 tables worth of stuff that has everything from like clouds to forests to rubble and everything in between.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, how do you decide what elements are going to be in what region? Do you just have like let's figure out how to make every type of element that I would normally build for that region, or do I want to? I'm doing this region and I want to specifically use these kind of things.
So for regions, like with regions, I try to hit everything. Where I'm like, okay, like what is going to be an obstruction? Is it going to be a statue? And even take a step back. It's, I think for people that are interested in like doing this or trying to come up with these like ideas, you really have to be familiar with the terrain rules and just take a step back from like what the actual stuff is. Because like an obstruction is anything that blocks line of sight. So it can be a like gigantic rock, a big building, even just like a giant wall. Like people like just think it has to be like squares, circles, or rectangles, but you can make some really funky looking shapes because it will still count as an obstruction. Right. So once you kind of have an idea of like what those rules are, you'll hit a region like, okay, let's go make Signar, right? And it's like, okay, well, what's generic Signar? What are some unique places in Signar? And it's like, okay, let's go make Henchhold, and we'll make like stuff that like looks like giant hanging stones, or we'll just do like a town with some aspects of like quote unquote Signar. And I mean, like you just like for some of these places, it's easy. You just fill it in with forests and walls and everything in between, and it just kind of fits. The challenge though is when you try to reskin this stuff, and that was like I think when you think about with Scorn, because I think Joe was mentioning like the skin of the forest, because I think you were saying like you're not going to go see a forest like in the middle of the desert, right?
Nope. But you found out a way to make it work, right?
Yeah, but I can't take credit for that. No Quarter put out a guide a while ago, and they said that hey, Scorn tents could end up being reskinned for a forest, and I ended up finding the files. I was able to go and create them, and from there, that kind of helped me in the idea of reskinning stuff, and not just being rubble has to be rocks or forests have to be like trees.
When I saw that table, that's what I thought it was. I thought it was someone had built. It was either the table that Privateer had used for the Scorn stuff that they'd done for that No Quarter, or it was someone had gone out and actually built their own version of it.
And what I'm kind of surprised, and I wish that there was like more pictures of that kind of stuff, because like Privateer Press came out with some really cool guides, and I have like in my hobby area, I have a binder full of every single terrain guide that they did, and I know that there's like STL files out there, but this is what the Iron Kingdoms looks like. This is what troll terrain looks like, and it's really exciting to be able to capture that. And I mean, to you thinking that was actually the stuff from them, like that's kudos to how easy the guides were to follow. That anybody could have done it.
Oh, what do you think about the fact of SFG posting from Gamma? Well, I don't know if they posted from Gamma, but the things from Gamma saying that they're going to start giving us STLs for terrain, for narrative, and things like that.
I'm really excited to see what that's going to go look like. I don't know if it's going to be like generic or if it's going to be regional. I would be really exciting if like each season, like kind of like how they like the Black Tide scenarios, like each season they explore a new area. So like this campaign is going to be all Crix terrain, so you have Crix options, and like this one's going to be all Chimera related stuff. So
I hope it's like that. That'd be sick.
So do I.
Yeah, because I think because to be again like there's a particular look that this has, and what was the recent Kickstarter that happened that Terraniacs just did? I'm trying to remember what it was called.
Yeah, we have it. We actually have some terrain from it.
Yeah,
what was it called?
Sent us.
Yeah, the like that stuff like it is great. And I think it looks perfect. Like the tower, I love the tower with the cannons coming out of it. Like I want like 4 of those, like for a table. I think it'd be really neat. But like I would just like to see more like just exploring those worlds, right? Yeah, this is a really cool IP. Like let's go and actually see it. But then it's like be like, yeah,
which I feel like is very Signar-ish look. I had to pull it up to look what it was. It's Ironclad Empires, and it looks very Signarian.
Yeah. Well, what's like nice is like you can just like paint anything on there and like, or you can paint like the icons on there and it's fine. It will fit. But like that's like another thing you're like saying like with for like the designing of the stuff. You're ever doing like tables and realms or whatever? Like look at the art that like the miniatures were on, or looking at like the pictures or like the old art of like models or like 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 the painted ones or drawn ones. You go see the backgrounds because you can see like there's different like architecture styles and like locations as well, which like that attention to detail.
Is that how you research a region or a table? Is you go look at the art?
That's one way of doing it. So it's looking at the art for kind of like inspiration. So we'll say for Carvertown, what I ended up doing for doing that was there was a pharaoh terrain. They had like a butchery and like a pig house. I don't remember what it was called. But I said, okay, cool. Like I got that. I got the guide, so I know how to do some pharaoh related stuff. Saw their minefield guide that they did online, like way back when the Pharaoh Saber came out. And then also looking at Iron Kingdom's RPG, they had the image of Carver Town, and like even looking at that, you draw inspiration from. So you have to kind of like do a lot of digging, and then you have to just kind of see like what STL files, if any, kind of fit or what kind of feel. So Carver Town was pretty much mostly scratch built, except for like the pig statue. In the mines, but a lot of the stuff was just like inspired from that, and then also like what are the world like Mad Max, or Borderlands, and those kind of things can kind of help out with inspiring you and fleshing out even more. And that like specifically like helped out with when I was also working on the Cephalix stuff, just finishing that up.
Do you want to talk about Carverland? I've been watching your pictures. Like, you want to tell us like what all you've been making for it?
Yeah, I can talk about it. So, like, going back to what you were saying, like Jay was asking, like, how do you figure out what's going to go be in there? So, in the regions, it's everything. So, the obstructions were houses, a butchery, and like a statue, and then the forests. That I'm like, I need to have a forest. I don't know how to reskin it, but what would a forest look like in like Pigland? They probably don't care about trees. And like, we don't need this. We need like more steel. So like, I end up finding like wasteland trees, and that's like
stuff with like stripped of leaves and just like really gnarly.
They look like utter garbage trees. Like they just exist. It's like, why hasn't anybody cut this down? Kind of a thing.
The wood that's not worth cutting down because it's not even worth burning.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably full of termites. Like, why do we even do it, right? So there's that, and then like the rubble piles. I'm like, well, they probably have like piles of scrap everywhere. So I just made scrap piles. Had some old warjacks and like turned them into scrap piles, like that the piggies would like go and take like pieces and try to sell them to like other piggies. Because like again, like you can even have like the terrain to like tell a story as well.
You said you're doing a minefield. How is that going to play? Like
the minefield like rules. I think it was like Brian. I think like Brian Quinlan on our server. I think that's if I can remember right. He ended up finding these rules when they ended up creating the minefield terrain. Like PP made this like back whenever the Sapper came out. And it's just these little tokens that I call like it's booby trapped. Like this terrain, it's another hazard where if you step on it, you can roll like a d6, and on a 1 or a 2, it explodes, and it's like a power 10 AoE 2. And it could be like destroyed by 80 mils. They could just like step over it. But that's like a fun thing to do as well, where you even add new terrain that doesn't even exist because what would fit in this specific region.
Yeah, I mean the narrative behind that's really strong, right? Like it's gonna play. I mean, people are gonna treat that like it's a minefield, and like, I mean, it'll. I think you could see porting it over to like a trench battlefield too, right? Or like a Signar kind of front gravediggers sort of battlefield could be part of it too.
Yeah, and like what it does as well is like not even like for conventions. It's just because again, like there's no official rules for it. Just casual plays, like, hey, let's go throw these things in there, and just it will change the experience, right? You can going at dragon's teeth or something, and they can end up like slowing down like your heavy models or something. It's just kind of doing something different from like your next your traditional steamroller game, right? Just like kind of make it a little bit more interesting and fun.
Yeah, so you're not doing just like tournament practice all the time, whatever, right? You're telling a story when you play. Yeah.
Hey, Paul, you've been to Nova many, many times. What is
Only
Nova's
twice.
policy on hanging things from the ceiling for terrain?
I don't remember if anything was ever hanging before. I imagine like the ceilings are really high. I never really paid.
The ceiling is really high, yeah.
Yeah.
So bring a ladder?
I guess. I don't know what you're thinking about, but
I'm just trying to figure out how to hang an airship.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, I mean, that would be cool.
That'd be really neat.
Those things are enormous.
Joe likes it, and Paul likes it.
They're like, I mean, they'd be a whole table, right? Like a whole 4x4. Like that's the kind of scale they are.
A huge one. Well, you got to think like there's probably like a carrier size one, and then there's like destroyer size ones.
Like I think what I'd do is if I was going to do something like that, is I would try and build either one of the smaller ones or like a section of one, and have it sit between two tables. Like have it be elevated, have it be and maybe do the supports to keep it up as troops dropping, or like a jack dropping and the smoke of it dropping coming off the ship or something. And use that as to create the supports. But I'd use it as sort of like how Tyson does for the tables he builds. He does these big sort of on the side big sort of displays, and I do it as that probably instead of trying to hang it way up in the air where you couldn't see all the detail.
Okay. So maybe like a foot off the ground with supports, or a foot off the table, I guess.
Yeah, or 2 feet off foot and a half off the table with supports. Yeah.
I think it would still read well as well. Like you'd be able to see like it actually is flying. And I'd love to see more maps like that were just. I remember like there was a piece of art where it was like a Signar airship and like a Kador airship. I don't know where this piece of art is, but you can like see like
Aftershocks 2.
Yeah, is that what it is?
Sorry, that's my little bit of that's where you're talking about.
I appreciate
Stormbreak,
it.
Right? Stormbreak 2?
Yeah.
Aftershock is the second book. Stormbreak is the one where airships show up. Yeah.
No, it happens in Aftershock too.
Their airships aren't in Aftershock. Aftershock is the second book. They show up in the third book.
Is it the third?
The third book. There's 4 parts. They released it.
Isn't Aftershock the whole series though?
No, that's Acts of War is the whole series.
Sorry, Acts of War. Then
I know this because I brought it up recently from someone asking.
No, I was thinking. I thought Aftershock was the whole thing.
Aftershock's the second book. Yeah.
So so the third book, you see the two of them flying in, and you see like the Kadorian one is just putting off like nasty, like blackish smoke, and the Signarian one looks all like fancy and electrical. And I'm trying to figure out how to make Gravediggers really pop, because I told you I'm hopefully going to do that trencher board. Just maybe put off to the side somewhere. It could look whatever. If
you
they
could totally do it as next to the board easily.
And I think that'd be something that if we could do that, make it look nice, and then SFG were to come out and be like, "Oh, you guys like this stuff."
Huh.
I mean, not that they think any of us are dedicated to the game or anything.
No.
Paul, did you do the board with the trains at Nova?
The trains? Oh no, I think Erica ended up buying a. She ended up like buying like a train STL thing a while ago. We did like a train painting night, so we all like grabbed a different piece and we painted it all up to what it is. So I think I did like the tracks and maybe like the big giant oil like storage device.
Yeah. That's a big tank, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because you mentioned that because like that's like our tables are like those standalones. Like this is the table. Like the train table is always going to be like fire and cloud effects. It's like it was carrying some kind of corrosive material. It's like all over the place, and it's, when it comes like to like those designs of like those tables, you can't just have it be like a standalone table. It's telling a story and it's doing what you needed to go and do. And you just like as long as you meet like the intent or meet the design requirements of like the 4 line of sight blockers and like a hazard or so, like you're golden, you're fine.
Yeah, I guess that's not really like a regional set. That's like this is a specific story. It's a specific map. That's kind of what you're saying, right? Yeah. I thought that was really effective. That felt really Iron Kingdoms to me.
Yeah, I have a terrain table that a terrain table that I've built. There's a company called Tectonic Craft Studios that make boards and some terrain and stuff and all. They do it all out of MDF laser cut, and they have some terrain cars and track sets and stuff like that that I've built in the past and had out in the past. They're just not very. You remember how I was talking about functionality? That the track isn't very functional for gameplay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It gets me sad because it's like you're right. Like the tracks, they look great, but because that they're just like flat, like they just move consistently and just get them off the table. Like they're horrible. Like
you can do it, but you have to like basically create like a channel that the track sits within.
Yeah,
and like having like sloped sides to it so that the models can fit on it and sort of go over it, but it basically turns it into a textured piece of flat terrain that doesn't really affect the table that well.
I've considered taking those tracks and putting them on a like some kind of like foam material, like what you were saying, and just having them be like a 1 foot by 1 foot, or like at least like 1 foot in size, because it's always straight, but you never curve it. Just so that way you can just lay it down flat and it works okay. Maybe like using magnets to make it so it doesn't shift.
The Tectonic Craft Studio stuff is like that. It's basically in 1 foot sections.
Yeah, but then like when you think about it, it's like with all the effort and the work that you're expending, like doing this, is it really worth it? You know what I mean? Like versus like all your other projects you need to go and work on.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I guess we could ask the what do you call it? The Lord of the Rings guys. Is it worth it? We all go and look at their tables. Like, do we want our tables to look like that? There were people who came in at Nova this last year, and there were 40Kers. Like, oh man, this looks awesome. Like they came in and watched the Siege. Like I wish you would have been there, Paul, to see the Siege.
Yeah.
But they came in and saw 12 feet of wall, and they saw the terrain and everything, and they're like, holy cow.
Oh, did they actually do? Was it Minas Tirith or was it Homestead?
No, that's we ran a Siege game at Nova last year.
Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. You said Lord of the Rings Siege. I'm like, what?
Yeah, no, it was a 12-foot long table with 3 gates that were openable, and it was pretty cool. We ran it Friday night, I think.
Yeah, I saw the pictures of it. It looked incredible, and just to see like the scale of that would be really, really impressive.
But what I meant is that like we all look at Lord of the Rings, but we might not be able to get to their level. But if we could be at 60% and eventually work up to like 90% of their level, when people come in and walk by from BattleTech or from 40K and see that we can try to do the same thing, people will be like, hey man, I played Warmachine back in the day. You know what? Tell me more about it now, because this looks amazing. And I think that's with having, or this is where I like 2.5 the best, is that it brings people in because they hate seeing the L, the little L rubble, that. And I think like your boards look amazing. It was like the Grimkin board, the circus, the
haunted circus.
Oh, I played on that one too.
I played on it. I loved it, and I didn't complain about moving stuff on and off at all. I just liked it.
The what I will say is like I can't remember the gentleman's name who is basically like owns all the Lord of the Rings tables. I remember asking him like, how did you do this? And he said, like, this is not a 1 year thing. Like he said, we'll do like 4 tables a year. Yeah. And I don't know which 4 tables they are because I went there in 22 and 23, and I think I saw like the same tables. Maybe they changed up one of them, but they just still look as good, right? And what's nice is that when you put in the effort over time, like you're good. I think Nova this year we're sitting for 30 tables, and I think between both of our groups, we're going to have 30 tables that will be regional or specific table like related, and they're going to look great. And I don't want to say that we're comparing about being like 60 or 90% of them. I would just say like, are we better than what we were last year? And as long as you're making progress that way, like that's
well, that's why I asked you about doing resin, like not resin, but doing the ice, because I have Mark II, or not Mark II, but Legacy Kador that is just sitting on a shelf. I have Legacy Menel that's sitting on a shelf, and why not try to integrate that into a battlefield? And you could do a battlefield of Kador. So... I'm just talking about like it's pre-painted. Clip it, do some of the ice texture on it, and you could do it into, these two people were battling. Well, haven't Legion of Everblight and Khador been battling forever since Thagrosh hated Khador? That could be,
Okay.
like a set design. That's why I brought up in the chat the other day, those two things, because think about what battles have happened in the past or could potentially happen in the future.
Okay, so let's push this conversation a step further. So we've talked about types of terrain. We've talked about what Paul's done regionally. So let's talk about Nova for this year and what kind of regions we want to have and what kind of terrain we want to see at the table. So we're going to have the Great Scorn table, the Grimkin tables, the stuff you've built previously. You built this really cool Carver Town, and you've shown us some cool stuff. Can we talk about the other one that you've sort of shown us some preview stuff?
Can we talk about Cephalix? I'm fine. There's gonna be like a video coming out hopefully next week about it.
There's some really cool Cephalix. There's stuff that you're working on for Cephalix table. What other kind of regional stuff do you want to have at the show that you haven't necessarily mapped down yet?
So on my table, I have, for Crix, I have like one of those soul or necrotite diggers.
Okay.
Not the one
I have one of the actual old school actual ones.
You should bring it because I would love to go. We can work together and we can go make like a Crix table, right? So there it is. We can all resources together. Yeah. But I mean, I'd love to have like a Crix table.
Okay.
I have I got like a bunch of like Aztec-ish like jungle files. So I have like the beginning of a zoo table. It's just going to be like the frog like land.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of where Joe's going to. Alex is in the process of printing him an Aztec ziggurat temple.
Yeah.
That he was going to use as a display board, but we could also possibly turn that into some stuff.
So I have to. I know
it was huge, and I had to shrink it down to only 12 by 12.
I want to just kind of ask though, is how do you research your STLs that you go and use? Because again, you have to be particular. I'm like, this is Aztec, but does it fit what I'm going for? Because you can go in Thingiverse or My Mini Factory and look, and there's how do you choose this is the file that I want?
So how to put it? I buy a lot.
You just buy them all.
I do. I have a problem. I have a problem. And then what I do is I'll actually go and take STLs from like 3 different things, and I will cut them and I will overlap them, and then using the slicing software, I reintegrate them and basically make my own on what I want to do. So like I can just take a standardized like ziggurat. So like the ones I think it's in I think it's one of the new Iron Kingdom books. They showed like with the temple in the background. And I'm like, well, that doesn't fit right there at the very top. Like, it's not supposed to just look like a random cat. I need it to look different. So why don't I take an STL from over here, and I'm going to cut this part out using like a cut piece. And then I'm going to put this over, and then I'm going to fuse it, or it's like fuse, or depending on whatever slicing software you use, to basically make it one piece, run it through, fix it to make sure it does correctly, and then I print it.
And that's cool.
To try to make it my own. And then I use it for our tables for when I, do stuff here. It's like when I was taking some of the buildings I was taking, and I'm like, well, this isn't steampunky enough. Let's put in a chimney. So then you just go find a chimney, or not even a chimney. Sometimes you just find, like steel stovepipe.
So I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, so me personally, I'm a CAD. I don't know if you know, Paul, but I'm a CAD designer. It's my career, and I'm not like I can't sculpt miniatures. I'm not that good, but I do a lot of architectural and mechanical drafting stuff for my job, and sort of like Andy. But I've designed terrain for Alec. I've designed terrain for myself and bases and things, and taking pieces from somebody else's like process and sort of being like, well, I like that aspect of this piece and this aspect of this piece and this aspect of this piece, and then merging them all together into something. It feels icky to me, but that's
the challenge.
All of those, and then I'm making it my own. I'm not selling them. I'm just doing it to make for the local community.
I don't feel icky in the way of like I guess for me though, it's like it looks like what did like 3 different people like work on this kind of a thing? Like, you know what I mean? Like when you, if you're putting it there, it's just because again, like each of these 3D artists are going to have a particular style where there might be a little bit of a clash where you put like the chimney that might work, but you know, if you're really having attention to detail, or maybe I think for some of us like terrain people that do, right? Like we can actually kind of like see those differences. You can even like see it like in differences in like sculpted models where you can tell like, you know, if like who was the artist that sculpted one Dusk War caster compared to another one.
Right.
You know, like it's if you have the eye for it, like you can see it.
Absolutely.
I guess I don't have the skill to do it, so I try to do the best of what I can do to make it unique and different. Like because
it's
look at how many
interesting
times you
too
go to
that you're able to do that.
Building.
I think that's something unique to the printer company that you have, their slicing software. Because I've used dozens of types of slicing software, and I've never seen slicing software that can do that kind of merging and cutting and merging and slicing and stuff like that.
You can do it in Fusion 360. You can do it in the Bamboo, but you can if you pay for Fusion 360, you can do it there too.
I mean, but like, that's not a slicing program. That's a 3D design.
You're right. That's a design. No, Bamboo makes it really easy to take like 5 different files. Well, the thing is not you don't take 5 at once. You take one and you add it in, and then you're like, do I like that? Do I not? Okay, if I like it, well, what else can I add to it? Like, it's
I've never seen a program that can do that. Other slicing wise, and I've used dozens of them slicing programs over the years.
I mean, it works well for me, and I like because like what I was trying to get back to is that so many times when you look at a building and it's, you know, you look on and you're like, oh, all of these buildings are the same. And if, like Paul was saying, if you go and you're like, oh, some of these don't work aesthetically, like if you have like, let's say 3 buildings from one group that you bought STLs from and 3 buildings from another one that you caught and you built or you printed, and those, and they don't, because everyone looks a little different. Some will look more realistic, some look more cartoony, some have more detail. Whereas if I can take, you know, 20 buildings that there are, and then I can add a few different things so that, oh, well, technically this is the same building, but I've added in a gear, I've added in a smokestack, I've added in a what is it, like an outhouse that's attached to the building or something. Now people are going to look and they're like, oh, so that looks like it should be in the same city. It's just a different house. A different architect built that house, but it still fits into it. It's kind of when you're going through Europe and you're going into some of the like the small towns. They all basically have the same generalized look, but they're all slightly different. And that's what I try to go with when I do that type of stuff. And I understand you don't necessarily like it, like me taking multiple different parts and making my own, but that way I can make it the same generalized thing, but still make it look unique. In addition to painting it differently.
When when we did the Five Fingers stuff, a lot of those buildings, because we just basically took the stuff from Nova and just reskinned it. We kind of did that where it's like, okay, we're going to go and have them all have relatively the same footprint, but then we would like change up where like the chimney smokestacks or what windows they would have, and there's like enough variety where you can tell like what's neat is like if you take all 7 of those buildings, they look like they're just like one part of a neighborhood. You know, that like this one architect, this is the general shape that we're doing, and like the builders just like put the windows in random places. It's just neat. It's something that you can do to. So I like your style. It works. It's neat. I definitely think like it's perfectly fine and valid.
I mean, it also works easy for me sometimes because if I'm trying to do like a lot of this, like when I'm trying to do the design or not design, but I'm trying to modify and I'm trying to kind of do it on my own. And, you know, it's in my free time that maybe it's down and dirty in how I do it. It still works though. And it's definitely not like high level play, but I'm just trying to make it so that, you know, the average person walking by, they're like, oh, that does look pretty cool. Because yes, there are people who have like the beautiful eye to look at it. But then there's the average guy, like I'd like to think me, who just looks at it and goes, that looks pretty cool. It's like when I put like an LED, I cut out the bottom and I put an LED in it. When someone just sees, you know, flickering behind a window, they don't care why. They just think it looks cool.
And
or
this
like
is what
I put in the chat the where is it? the little ultrasonic is what they're called. Ultrasonic atomizer and humidifiers. Those little modules. So I used to buy those from Kickstarters, and then I found where you can buy an 8-pack for, $9. And now I can have, and they don't put out a huge amount of moisture, but now I can have every single building, every single chimney is putting out smoke. And that's something that would be unique, and it's not expensive, and it's not super hard to do, but I can make it cool. Like, that's one of the things I want to try to do. If I can make this airship to go above the trench, I want steam coming out of the vents, like the deck and stuff. Like, you remember from when they did the airship for Privateer Press, and you had steam grates and you had stuff like that. And they had steam grates on the thing, but no steam was coming out of it. Well, we're kind of steampunky. I know we're Full Metal Fantasy, but that's cool. Or like have steam coming out of, like, put an LED and suddenly now it's blue steam coming out. And maybe you do a different LED, like you do some of the new micro LEDs that are coming out, the little super thin strips, and it looks like lightning. And I don't have the ability to sculpt from scratch, but I can do kind of cool FX thing. And that's my wheelhouse. That's where I can do into terrain. And that's what I like.
At the end of the day, if you get people excited to go and check out this stuff, I think you're doing it right. So, nothing wrong with that.
But so getting back to what you want to see for. Sorry, we went off on a tangent.
Yeah. Well, that's the nature of our podcast. We go on crazy tangents all over the place.
Yeah, like that's so. Yeah, so what other? So you talked about Crix. Your Cephalix.
I want to do an
talk about the Cephalix some more. I actually don't. Yeah. Was that's new, right? It wasn't it.
No.
You didn't
tell me about this.
Yeah.
No. I want to.
If you go take a look at the Discord chat, I think I put all the pictures up.
Yeah. You did.
Okay. Nice.
So I definitely took the Cephalix inspiration from Tyson's table, just because like the red lights, I'm like, and like the vats, I'm like, okay, I want to go do this. But he used her starts in order to go and make his vats. I instead wanted to go and find an STL file, so it was like really hard to find the right STL file, but I ended up like finding one, and it was like during like a winter sale, and I just like loaded it up, and it was very easy. And going back to like the reskinning.
Oh, okay, I see these. Dang, they look awesome.
Yeah. So you talk about LEDs, right? I'm like, all right, let's go play with them now. Let's go see. So,
wow.
It's neat. It was fun to make it. But then, what were we talking about? Like reskinning things. Like, how do you do cloud effects in like underground? Right, clouds just don't exist. And like, well, put giant steam vents like down on the ground, and then you can have like them being burning clouds or acidic clouds and stuff. So do that, perfect. And then. By far, my favorite one was the forest. Is that it's a like an operating area, so it's all like medical screens. But like I like put like blood splatter all over them and stuff, and it's like rusty and gross. And you just like, who in their right mind?
Okay, I would never thought of that.
Conditions? Yeah, it's just like it's very funny. But I mean, like it tells like a story. It's like this is the place that makes the monstrosities and makes the drudges. Like deal with it. So that was
What's the physical table going to look like? Is it going to be a big like operating room? Is it going to be a cavern? Like,
so it's more like a big, gigantic operating room because I know that they do exist underground. And I thought, okay, do I want to put like stalagmites and stalactites or like like those giant, big giant rock pillars? But I already had enough obstructions between like my vents and like the giant monstrosity that's in the middle of the table. That's it. You know what? It's not necessary, and that's like another thing you kind of pick. Like, you know what it should look like, but it's fine. It's doing it.
If you remember from the Vengeance book from Mark II, Mark II, they talk about how the Cephalix, when they would go and hollow out a tunnel, it'd be a beautiful, smooth, clear tunnel. Because they talk about when Starkaf is going for Tarkov. When he rescues him off the steel, or Harchef, when he rescues him off the steel table, and they talk about that, there is a little bit of moisture in the room, but it's smooth because I guess they don't want to, bounce off or trip around anything. So I get what you're saying. Like, it doesn't, just because in our world you'd have stalactites and stalagmites, but at the Cephalix, they might make it nice, clear, and clean, and not clean, but smooth.
I think the amount of rust that I did might have been a little overboard. I definitely took a lot of inspiration from
really
like
rusty.
Silent Hill and like
Yeah.
Raw and stuff. And I'm like, all right, let's make this
Yeah.
crunchy and gross.
Oh yeah, this feels like Silent Hill to me. Man, the aesthetic is so good, right? How these things all go together, right? Like the strong reds, the strong rusts. Like I bet these are going to look so cohesive. What's the mat going to be? That's
We have
part of this too, right?
Yeah, we actually have a temple mat that it was actually in the last battle report that we did with Carver Town. I was like, looked at it, I'm like, why are they not playing in like a grassy field? Like, what is this? It's like, but because like that's my details. I'm like, but anyway, it's fine. I'm just nuances, but
I have a mat that might work for you. It's one that I bought from Fat Mats years ago, and
Yeah.
it's supposed like I always use it for the Undercity when I do Iron Kingdoms. But it's a 4 foot by 4 foot. I'm gonna bring all my stuff when I come to Nova, obviously, and I'll open it up and let you see, and it might work perfectly for you.
Yeah, like anything industrial or like underground rocky would be fine. And that's all you really need to go to. It's just trying to find just find some kind of background that would work. And yeah, so like, and I knew we had the temple map, so like for me, I'm like, it's maybe not 100% accurate, but it's like good enough that it's like it's a gigantic structure that you're in.
Yeah, I think for me, I think the table that I'm going to focus on building first is probably, or I guess region is probably, I want to do an inside an Orgoth temple. And do the looks and feels of the Orgoth temple and the walls and the edges of the board and thing, but what it would be like actually physically inside of an Orgoth temple. The statues and the water will be blood pools and stuff like that.
Do any of you know how to pull STLs or to pull the 3D design from a video game and make it an STL? Because that's something I haven't learned yet. But we have Warmachine Tactics that we could pull from, and they have Orgoth temples. They have so many good buildings in there we could pull from.
I would rather sculpt them myself, but
okay. We've already discussed. I try to find something and make it my own. And if I knew how to do that, I would. I'm just Paul's here. Maybe he knows how.
I am not an expert on that, so I could not give you any advice on it. But I think it would be kind of a fun little activity or fun exercise if you're up for it. Is let's go and design this Orgoth temple, and how do you incorporate your elements, your terrain elements, into said temple? Mm-hmm. So that way you can kind of like get an idea of like the process of like how would you reskin rubble? How would you reskin in there?
What's your forest, right? What's your cloud? That kind of thing. Like,
so like. Yeah. What, like, I guess, Jay, like, what would you be thinking?
Well, rubble would probably be, like, bits of armor and, clothing and, basically stuff from all of the people that they've slaughtered to the gods. Because I don't know if you've read any of the Orgoth stories, but they basically, like, take the population and slaughter them in this big festival after every big battle, all the captured civilians, so that they can give the souls to the Orgoth gods, to the infernal gods that the Orgoths worship, so that they can the casters can get the ability to resurrect.
Yeah. Okay.
So probably that kind of stuff for the rubble. The obstructions and things would probably be sections of wall or. I like the feeling of doing different levels of elevation, so maybe like stairs up to an elevated top, like pedestal kind of thing. So areas of pedestal. I want to do walls along the outside so that there's sort of the setting up that kind of terrain, but then also statues, because the Orgoth have all the face designs and all the. I want to do a bunch. I want to do a bunch of that.
If you go take a look real fast in the direct messages, I just sent an image of like a file that I bought a while ago that when I do my Orgoth stuff, like I'm 100% using this in there because I think it.
Ooh, that looks good.
Doesn't that fit? It fits so well, doesn't it? Yeah. That's like what I would do for like my rubbles, or like even like I have like a giant church, like a gigantic like head.
Yeah.
I think I need to go through all my old STLs. I need a better way to organize them. I might have some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So Jay, you could, for your hills, you could do like altars. Like big,
we already have hills.
thing?
We already have hills, the soul carrion, right? So I have one of those and some of the statues are definitely going to go into that. But I want to build bigger soul carrions effectively for hills and things.
That's cool. I like the idea that you can even like just do like your like a water feature could just be like I don't know, like I think wasn't there like a pile of blood or something that like Sabreth was in when she was like did like the sacrifice thing? So you could do like one of those.
Yeah, so that's definitely blood pools definitely be the water features. And when I painted my Infernals army at the end of Mark III, every base had blood on it, so I'm pretty familiar with how to do that.
That's cool.
Yeah. So definitely gonna do some of that. I think I want to actually do it more as like some of it will be just like big like rivers, or because like I don't know if you've ever seen is it Full Metal Alchemist, where they do the blood sacrifice and there's sort of like trails of blood throughout the building to create the circle so they can create the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah, familiar with the anime, but not actually ever seen it.
Yeah. So there's I think it's Full Metal Alchemist. It could be something else, but they basically have these like things that crush a person and pull all the blood out of them, and it creates these trails on the ground of sort of like rivers of blood that go to like big pools that they use to create that they use in the alchemy to create the alchemist stone. I think I want to do something like that where there's like actual like in the floor there's lines of blood and that lead to pools and different things. So there's water kind of feature kind of stuff with that. Fog, I mean, you could do like boiling blood pools so that it has like a mist of evaporated blood or something, maybe. I don't know.
Well, again, like you don't have to always have every single piece and like just I think like the best ones that are always easiest to probably like work with is just rubble, because it's as long as it's stuff that you can hide behind, like you're good to go for like making anything into a rubble pile.
I've done in the past. I've done for alternate forest. I don't think it would necessarily work for this table, but I've done like crystal forests.
That's fun.
Where you use like big sections of crystal to represent the forest. Do like pipe forest. I mean, there's.
Yeah, I would actually imagine just like I don't know, like I never played the game, so I don't know if there would be like vegetation inside one of these places, but you could probably just like have it be like a big bushy thing that like.
So I'm thinking of like an active Orgoth temple, an existing one, not a ruined one. So if it was a ruined one, you absolutely could overgrow it with vines and stuff. I'm thinking of an actual like active one that the Orgoth use.
Neat.
Yep.
Have the Orgoth been making new temples?
They have started setting up bases. Yes. I don't know if they've. I don't know. I'd have to look into the fluff and research, but like they basically one of the stories. It's actually Cricks are the main characters in the story, but they're working with Orgoth. They're basically looking to set up a thing to pull a god, to kill a god, and they want to create an Orgoth temple to do it. So, and the temple that was used at Adepticon, I think, was a new one as well.
That's really cool. That's neat. It's also like it's another thing you can even consider. It's just like even reading the fluff and just like reading like about a specific battle or a specific area that's like in the fluff, and you can just like what this place even look like?
Yep,
that's cool.
Are there any other like kind of stuff that regionalized? Because I know like Joe's talking about frogs, and you're talking about frogs.
No, I mean like I'm waiting to see with the direction of our narrative stuff. And whatever that's gonna go entail. But I have like a lot of different like ideas on stuff I want to go do. I actually considered like I don't know where it was where like Sabreth went to go talk to like the Felgoth gods, but like I imagine it looking like Berserk, where like the
she went straight up into their realm. She like killed herself, went into the realm. Her soul was taken to on the other side of the wall. They talked to her, and then they sent her back.
I've had like a desire to like make that kind of region and to make it look like a Hellraiser kind of a
Are you gonna
like
do the
preserve.
like mismatch of architecture and stuff taken from different worlds kind of thing, or
I don't know. Like I mean, again, like I just like spitballing an idea. I did not know that that's how that actually would work. That seems really cool. I don't know how you would do that.
So when I think of Hell, I think so. There used to be this game called Helldorado, and they did the company that made it did a couple of these cool tables. And basically, the idea of the table is it's sort of like a wasteland, a sort of like ash wasteland kind of a table. But then they have all these like tiled floors and pieces of a building from a building that became a Hellgate. And so the piece of the building where the Hellgate formed is now on that side of the table. So you have all these like chunks of different pieces, different kinds of different, wherever a Hellgate materializes, that chunk of the world where the Hellgate was has been sucked through and disappeared from the other world. So there's all these like twisted components of different kinds of structures around the board.
Yeah, it like reminds me of like the like those new Marvel films where they show you all like the multiverse stuff and like everything's just like kind of like bleeding into each other. It's like so trippy to even like start to even kind of wrap my head around. To the point like it like how do you even make that look right or to read like that's what it's supposed to go be? Because if it's like too jumbled up,
you just don't want it to look like a pile of random stuff.
The way I would do it,
no, just do it like Land of the Lost, the Will Ferrell movie.
The way I would do it is I would pick a historical building or historical term or like a IK kind of narrative term. So like what would a Signar building with the colors and style of a Signar building look like? What would the colors and styles of a Menoth building look like? What would a statue from a Scorn castle look like, or a section of a piece of a Scorn castle look like? That stuff and all. So I would add to those different components and then texture it and weather it all the same colors. So use weathering powders or weathering or paints, and I would basically tone everything so that it all sort of fits together. But each element has its own structure based on where it's from originally. Is probably how me personally would do it.
No, that's cool. I like that.
Because that would create a filter or a tone that sort of tones everything together. But each thing you could get a feel of where those different elements are. Now I want to build this table. God.
No, so Paul, when are you going to do a Grimkin Trapperkin layer table?
I'm going to be honest, like I am not really as familiar with like as much lore as I would like to. So I did not know there was a Trapperkin layer. If anything, honestly, the Grimkin Carnival. Goodness. No, I've actually been wanting to talk to Eric about this. Is to take the Grimkin Carnival and actually like reskin some of the stuff because I think it's like Malifaux. It's actually like what some of the stuff is right now, but to like have like one of the pictures be like the flying Krabbits, you know what I mean? Like it's the skin emotes would be the man with 1,000 faces, you know, like have that be like the actual attractions.
It'd be cool if you did the inside of do the board as the inside of a big tent and have the different carts and cars and things from the carnival either inside or like just outside of it.
Oh my god, that's so silly.
Like, you have like the rings. You have the rings, so you have some walls that you build in that are the different rings of the circus, and the bleachers that are like old and rusted and broken are could be the forests.
It's like they go back. It's just like Jay, we only have 30 tables. We're gonna run out.
Well, no. I'm hoping they expand it. Look, we had such a good turnout at Nova last year.
Well, we got 10 more tables than we had last year. 30 is 10 more tables than we had last year.
Oh, is it?
Awesome.
Yeah, we had 20 last year.
Yeah, I'm hoping that if everybody does their pre-orders or they order the tickets sooner than later, then that can allow us to expand all the events.
Be great.
Or it'd be neat. It'd be crazy considering like the growth of seeing it over that much time. Yep. But yeah, lots of other tables and lots of other ideas in mind. Because I'm like not able to play as much as I used to, so I'm happy to be able to still contribute somehow to elevate other people's experiences in playing.
How many tables of terrain do you guys think you have right now?
Oh gosh,
either that are built already or are in the works.
I mean, I think I had like an Excel spreadsheet, and I know it's not even accurate. because it's not accounting for all the stuff that's already still at Nova. I think we're at 30, like easy. But it's like a mix between all the stuff that we've made over the years, and again, like ideally, what I'd love to see eventually happen is that the stuff just stays down at Nova. You know what I mean? And like we don't have to worry about shepherding it all the time, or like we only bring.
Yeah, that sounds like a trial, getting it all down there and set up. And
I just remember like all the bins that I had to go in and take with me the first year. It was ridiculous, man. But it was cool. It was very effective.
Oh, you guys also need a good, solid castle railthorn too. I keep thinking about like if you want like a good theme, like you could have a statue of Leto, or
not everybody invades Castle Railthorn.
Yeah, I actually thought about doing like Signar because it's Caspia is the city of walls or whatever it is, and just having like a gigantic wall on like one side. Like you can't play with that on the table, but it can definitely be like the outskirts or like someplace like inside one of the inner walls. And there.
Well, our walls aren't gigantic, but we have 8 feet of wall kicking around that we can bring.
It's good enough. They're close enough. It works.
Yeah.
I got 4 feet.
I got 4 feet.
You got 4 feet. And Joe has 4 feet.
Didn't Jason keep?
No, Jay has 5 feet.
Oh shoot! I forgot. Yeah, Jason kept.
Yeah.
I can always print you more.
No,
we're good. Please no. We have enough walls.
We do.
No more walls.
Right. So you're right. We only have 8 feet of wall.
Right.
Only. I'm sure my wife would be like, "Here, give this stuff away," because I just have totes and totes.
Yes, you do.
Well,
all right. So sounds like one of the things we need to do is we need to come together now that the cast is coming to an end and figure out regionally. We need to hear back from SFG and figure out what the narrative kind of stuff is going to be like for that, right? Is there anything else you want to talk about before we end the cast?
No, I think we've been talking for over an hour right now, and it's
we're at a good length.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to go end with this is like if you are interested in like doing tables or working on tables, there's a variety of resources that are out there. There's a variety of people that are dedicated and interested in doing this stuff that you just have to go ahead and reach out to those folks and ask. I mean, like the hobby channels that are on the Trash Panda and SFG. I'm pretty sure that'd be helpful. I'm pretty sure if you go on to the Hampton Roads Atlanteans Discord, I'm pretty sure you can go talk to Jay. You go to the Delaware Warmachine one, you can go and talk to me, and I'd be happy to help out and spitball ideas and stuff. Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is just get people excited to play the game, get more people to the table, and have a lot more prompt and circumstance. And if we can elevate your experience, we'd be happy to go do that.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so thank you, Paul, for joining us. It's been
a pleasure, man.
Thank you for having me on. It was great to being able to put names and voices to faces and pictures of models and stuff. So it's been great.
All right, guys. So thank you for tuning into episode 14. This has been Jay and the Atlanteans. You can find all of our information down in the show notes. We have our link tree that'll give you access to all of our different social media channels and things. You can check out Paul on the Tried and True Discord. I'll include a link to it in the show notes this week. Thank you very much. This has been Jay.
And Alec.
Joe.
And do I say I'm Paul? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Paul. Hey, all right.
I could be Paul. I'm Paul. Yeah.
Oh, all right. All right. Thank you guys very much for listening. We'll catch you all later.
Bye.
Bye.